Smoke covered the sky like a black ocean. The air was heavy and hot, every breath sharp with ash. Flames moved across the alien forest, eating trees, eating the ground, eating everything in their way. In the middle of this chaos, a human soldier stood alone. His name was Captain Ryan Hale. Ryan's armor was burned and cracked. His weapon was almost empty. His squad was gone, lost in the fight, lost in the fire. He had survived, but he was not safe. The fire had no master. It moved like a living beast, chasing, hunting, reaching for him. Explosions still echoed in the distance. The war was not finished. Humans and aliens still fought. But here, in this ruined valley, Ryan was alone. His heart pounded as he searched for a way out. He could not go back the way he came. Flames blocked the path. Smoke closed the sky. Every second, the heat grew stronger. Then, through the roar of the fire, Ryan heard a sound. It was soft. It was small. At first, he thought his mind was tricking him. The battlefield had broken many soldiers before. Maybe the sound was nothing. Maybe it was just a fire. But then it came again. A cry. High, sharp, desperate. Not human. Not adult. The sound of a child. Ryan froze. He looked left, right, forward. The fire hissed and cracked. But behind the noise, the cry returned. His soldier's instinct told him to move away, to escape, to survive. But his heart pushed him toward the sound. Step by step he followed it, deeper into smoke, deeper into danger. The heat grew worse. His visor fogged, sweat burned his eyes. He coughed, covering his mouth. His boots sank into ash. The sound of the child grew louder. He could hear fear in it, fear and pain. Then he saw it, a small alien cub, pinned under a heavy beam of fallen metal. The cub's fur was gray and streaked with soot. Its eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, wide with terror. It clawed weakly at the ground but could not escape. Flames curled closer, reaching for the child. Ryan's chest tightened. He had seen these aliens before, in battle, holding weapons, killing his friends. But this was not a warrior. This was not an enemy. This was just a child, alone, trapped, seconds away from burning alive. He stepped closer. The cub saw him and cried louder, not in hate, not in anger, in fear. It did not know him. It did not trust him. Ryan dropped his rifle. The metal clattered against stone. He held up his hands, palms open, showing he meant no harm. His voice was rough from smoke, but he spoke softly. It's okay. I won't hurt you." The cub whimpered, eyes locked on him. The fire hissed louder, a wall of orange crawling closer. He had no time. If he tried to escape alone, maybe he could live. If he tried to save the cub, he might die here, both of them turning to ash. The thought hit him hard, leave it or save it, soldier or human, survival or sacrifice. Ryan clenched his teeth. There was no choice. Not for him. He dropped to one knee beside the beam. The heat burned his skin even through armor. He pressed his hands under the metal and pushed. His arms shook. His back screamed. The weight was too much. Smoke stung his eyes, making him blind. The fire roared, as if laughing at him. The cub cried louder, struggling, but still trapped. Ryan growled, his voice breaking through the smoke. Come on. With one final push, he lifted the beam just enough. The cub crawled free, stumbling forward into his arms. Ryan let the beam crash down behind them, shaking the ground. He pulled the cub close to his chest. The child was trembling. Its small hands grabbed his armor and held tight. He could feel its heart beating fast against him. Ryan stood, holding the cub, shielding it with his own body. The fire closed in from every side. The only way out was through the flames. He looked at the cub. Hold on. Don't let go." The cub buried its face against him, too weak to answer. Ryan took a breath. Hot, painful, heavy. Then he ran. Flames reached out, burning his arms, licking at his legs. Smoke tore into his lungs. The cub screamed, but Ryan kept moving, one step, another, faster, faster. The fire tried to swallow them, but he pushed through, covering the cub with his armor, ignoring the pain. At last, he broke through the other side. The air was still full of smoke, but here the fire was weaker. He stumbled forward, nearly falling, before dropping to his knees. He looked down at the cub. It was alive, shaken, burned in small places, but alive. Its glowing eyes looked up at him now with something different. Not just fear. Something else. Trust. Ryan let out a long, broken breath. The fire still raged behind him. The war still echoed in the distance. But in this moment, in this place, he had saved one life. And in that moment, he had no idea how much it would change everything. The fire was behind him, but danger was not. Captain Ryan Hale knelt on the ground, holding the alien cub in his arms. His chest rose and fell like a hammer. Every breath felt like knives in his throat. His armor was black and his skin burned, but his eyes stayed fixed on the child. The cub clung to him, its gray fur marked with ash, its glowing eyes wet with tears. It did not let go. It pressed against him like he was the only safe thing left in a world full of fire. Ryan wanted to rest, but he had no time. The war was still close. Gunfire cracked in the distance. Explosions echoed. And soon, soldiers, human or alien, would come. He looked at the cub again. It was alive but weak. If he left it here, it would not survive. If he carried it, his chances of escape dropped. But Ryan already knew what he would do. He stood. The cub made a soft noise like a whimper and held tighter to his armor. Ryan shifted it to one arm and pulled his rifle up with the other. Empty. He tossed it away. It was useless weight. He needed both arms free. Then the ground shook. The fire had drawn more than smoke. Enemy soldiers were moving through the trees, drawn by the sound. Ryan's head snapped left, then right. He saw dark shapes in the distance. Alien warriors, tall, armored, moving fast. Their weapons glowed faint in the smoke. He was trapped. Ryan ducked behind a half-burned tree. He pressed his back to the blackened bark, holding the cub close. The cub whimpered, but Ryan whispered, "Quiet, stay quiet." His voice was calm, steady, even though his heart raced. The aliens closed in. He could hear their voices, harsh, strange, full of anger. Their footsteps were heavy, shaking ash from the ground. Ryan knew if they found him, it was over. They would not just kill him. They would take the cub back, maybe use it as a weapon, maybe punish it for being in his arms. His jaw tightened. He could not let that happen. He looked around. Through smoke, through fire, he saw a narrow path, a gap in the burning forest. Small, dangerous, but it was the only way. He adjusted the cub in his arms and took a breath. Then he ran. The aliens shouted behind him. A beam of plasma shot past, striking the ground. Dirt and ash exploded around him. He shielded the cub with his body, covering its head with his arm, and pushed his legs harder. Every step was a fight. His armor slowed him. His burns ached, but he did not stop. Another plasma shot hit close, spraying heat across his back. The cub cried out, clinging tighter. Ryan kept running, weaving left, right, using smoke and fire as a shield. Then, ahead, he saw a wall of flames, tall as a building. The path ended in fire. His chest sank, but he had no choice. Behind him were weapons. In front, only fire. Between the two, he chose fire. He pulled the cub tighter against him. "Hold on," he whispered. And he jumped. For a second, the world was fire. His armor burned, his skin screamed. The cub cried out, but Ryan pushed through, rolling hard onto the other side. He coughed, his lungs begging for air. His body shook with pain. But when he looked down, the cub was still alive, still in his arms. Alive. He staggered to his feet, stumbling forward. Behind him, the aliens shouted, but the flames now blocked them. He had a moment. Not much, but enough. He kept moving, step after step, through the smoking forest. Finally, he reached the edge of the valley. The fire did not follow here. The ground was open, full of ash but no flames. Ryan collapsed to one knee, gasping for air. His vision swam. His body begged him to stop. But then he looked down. The cub was watching him. Its eyes were wide, glowing faintly. It did not look at him with fear now. Not anymore. It looked at him with something else. Something heavier. Trust. Ryan let out a long breath. He had carried the cub through fire, through enemy fire, through death itself. He should not have lived. Neither should the cub. But here they were, alive, together. Then he heard a new sound. Footsteps. Ryan froze. He turned his head slowly. Out of the smoke, shapes appeared again. Alien warriors. Their weapons were raised, glowing in the dark. Their eyes fixed on him. Ryan's muscles locked. He had nothing left to fight with. He was burned, empty, broken. The cub clung to him. The aliens saw this. They saw the human soldier on his knees, holding one of their young in his arms. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The fire crackled behind them. The air shook with silence. Ryan lowered his head, whispering to the cub, "It's okay. Whatever happens, it's okay." The cub pressed its small hand against his armor, refusing to let go. The alien warriors tightened their grips on their weapons, but none fired. None stepped forward. They only watched, their eyes filled with something Ryan did not expect. Not rage, confusion, and fear. The impossible had happened. A human soldier had walked through fire, through death, not to kill but to save. And nothing on this battlefield would ever be the same again. The forest was gone. Only black ground, broken trees, and smoke remained. Captain Ryan Hale stood in the open, holding the alien cub close against his chest. His armor was burned. His body was weak. His eyes stung from the fire. But he stood. He did not fall. Before him, alien warriors circled. Their armor was heavy, their weapons sharp and glowing. They were larger than Ryan, stronger, faster. Soldiers built for war. Yet not one of them moved closer. Not one fired a shot. They stared. The battlefield was still alive with echoes, distant gunfire, faraway explosions. But here, in this place, there was silence. The fire crackled behind Ryan. The wind carried ash across the ground. The cub whimpered in his arms, pressing against him as if hiding from its own people. Ryan kept his eyes low. He did not raise his weapon because he had none. He did not run because there was nowhere to run. He only held the child, steady, calm, waiting for the end. The aliens whispered to each other in their harsh tongue. Ryan could not understand their words, but he could feel the weight of them. Some voices carried anger. Others carried fear. All of them carried shock. One warrior stepped forward, taller than the rest. His armor was marked with glowing lines, showing rank. His face was half hidden behind a mask of bone. His weapon hummed, pointed at Ryan's chest. Ryan raised his head, finally meeting the leader's eyes. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. The cub made a small sound. It looked at the leader, then back at Ryan, and then, in a voice weak and trembling, it cried out one single word in its own language. The word was not clear to Ryan, but he knew what it meant. He saw it in the way the leader froze. He saw it in the way the other warriors shifted uneasily. The cub had called for help, and not from them, from him. Ryan's heart tightened. He looked down at the child. It held his armor with tiny claws, refusing to let go. In its glowing eyes, he saw something he had never expected. Choice. The cub had chosen him. The alien leader's weapon lowered just slightly. His eyes burned with confusion. He turned his head, speaking to the others in sharp tones. Their voices rose, then fell again. None of them stepped forward. None of them fired. Ryan shifted the cub in his arms. His voice was rough, broken from smoke, but steady. "This is a child," he said, though he knew they might not understand. "Not a soldier, not a weapon, just a child." Silence answered him. He took a step forward. The warriors flinched, weapons raised, but they did not strike. The cub cried again, louder this time, and the sound cut through the smoke like a blade. The leader's weapon trembled in his hand. Ryan stopped. He knelt slowly, placing one knee in the ash. He lowered the cub to the ground, but the child clung tighter, refusing to be set down. Ryan tried again, gently prying its hands free, but it cried out in fear, reaching back for him. The warriors froze again. Ryan's chest tightened. He had carried this child through fire and death. Now it would not leave him. He looked at the leader once more. The alien's eyes held no clear answer. Not rage, not mercy, something between. The cub turned its glowing eyes to the leader, then back to Ryan. It gave a weak sound, almost like a word, but softer, unsure. The leader lowered his weapon further. The other warriors did the same. And in that moment, the battlefield changed. The silence grew heavier. Even the fire behind them seemed to quiet. Human and alien soldiers at the edges of the valley had begun to gather, both sides drawn by the strange stillness. They saw what the aliens saw, a human soldier, kneeling in the ash, holding their child in his arms, refusing to let go. No one fired. No one moved. Enemies stood across from each other, weapons ready, but none willing to break the spell. For the first time in the war, the battlefield was quiet. Ryan held the cub close again, shielding it with his body. He knew the silence would not last. War always returned. Blood always followed. But here, now, in this single fragile moment, something greater had taken hold. He looked around at the warriors, at the soldiers beyond, at the broken land between them. He spoke again, his voice calm, almost a whisper. "You see," he said, "even here, even in fire, life matters." The words carried into the silence. Some heard them, some did not. But the image, the soldier, the child, the fire, would stay. The cub closed its eyes, finally resting against him, no longer crying. It had found safety, not with its own people, not with its own warriors, but with him. Ryan did not know what would happen next. He did not know if he would live or die, if they would let him walk away or cut him down where he knelt. But he knew one thing. The battlefield would never be the same, and neither would the war. The silence did not last. The battlefield stillness broke as the distant roar of engines shook the ground. Dropships cut through the smoke above, their lights glowing like angry stars. Ryan Hale turned his head and saw the symbol on the hulls. Human ships, reinforcements. They landed in waves, kicking up ash and dust. Soldiers poured out, weapons raised, armor shining under the glow of fire. Ryan's own people, his own army. For a moment, relief washed through him. He was not alone anymore, but the relief faded quickly. Human commanders marched forward, eyes locked on him. They saw the burned armor. They saw the alien warriors standing in silence. And then they saw the cub his arms. At once, their voices rose in sharp commands. "Captain Hale, step away from the creature." Ryan tightened his grip. The cub stirred, pressing closer against his chest. Its tiny claws dug into his armor, unwilling to let go. One commander, tall and stern, stopped a few steps away. His weapon pointed not at the aliens, but at the child. His voice was cold, sharp as steel. That is the enemy. Release it. Now. Ryan's jaw tightened. He felt every soldier's eyes on him. Some human, some alien, all waiting for what he would do. This is not a soldier, Ryan said, his voice rough but steady. This is a child. The commander's eyes narrowed. It doesn't matter. That thing will grow into one of them. One day it will carry a weapon. One day it will kill humans. Step aside. The cub whimpered softly. Ryan looked down at it, at the small glowing eyes that stared back at him with trust. He could still feel its trembling heartbeat against his chest. He shook his head. Not today. The commander's voice rose, harder, louder. That's an order, Captain. You will hand over the creature immediately. Ryan's heart pounded. He had worn this uniform for years. He had obeyed every command. He had fought, bled, and sacrificed for his people. But this was different. He looked at the alien warriors. Their weapons were still lowered, but their eyes burned with tension. They were ready to kill or die, depending on what happened next. The wrong move would reignite the war right here, right now. He looked back at his commander. The man's finger hovered near the trigger. Ryan took a breath, steady and clear. Then he spoke. With respect, sir, I won't follow that order. The silence returned for a heartbeat. The commander's eyes widened, then darkened with fury. Around him, human soldiers shifted uneasily. They were trained to obey, but they had never seen a captain defy command so openly. Think carefully, Hale, the commander hissed. You're risking court-martial. You're risking everything. For what? For an animal? Ryan's grip on the cub tightened. His voice was calm, but his words cut like fire. For life. The cub made a small sound, almost like it understood. The aliens shifted again, their leader stepping forward slightly. His weapon was still low, but his eyes locked on Ryan with a strange intensity. Respect, confusion, maybe even something close to gratitude. The commander's voice grew harsher. You're blinded. Hale, that creature is not your responsibility. It is your enemy. Let it go, or I'll have you restrained. Ryan slowly rose to his feet, still holding the cub. He stood tall despite the burns, despite the weakness in his legs. His eyes met the commander's without fear. If this is the enemy, then I choose to stand with it. Gasps rippled through the soldiers. Some stared in shock. Others lowered their weapons, uncertain. The air between the two armies grew heavy, ready to explode with violence. The alien leader finally raised a hand. His warriors obeyed, lowering their weapons completely. The meaning was clear. They would not fire first. Not while Ryan stood with the child. The commander's face twisted with rage. His voice cracked like thunder. You're a soldier of the Terran Union. You swore an oath. Ryan's voice was quiet, but unshakable. I swore to protect life. All life, even this one. The cub pressed its face into his armor, as if hiding from the storm of voices. Ryan placed a hand gently on its back, calming it. The commander trembled with anger. For a moment, Ryan thought he would give the order to fire anyway. He could see the struggle in the man's eyes. Duty against pride, law against morality. But then, slowly, the commander lowered his weapon. His voice was low, sharp with warning. You've crossed a line, Hale. A line you can't return from. Ryan did not move, did not speak. He only held the cub. The silence grew once more. Human soldiers watched their captain. Alien warriors watched their enemy. And between them stood Ryan Hale, a single man making a single choice. A dangerous choice. The fire still burned in the distance. The war still raged beyond the valley. But here, in this broken place, a new path had been carved. Not by armies, not by leaders, by one man, holding one child. And from this moment on, nothing would be the same. Ash still drifted from the sky when Ryan Hale made his choice. He stood between two armies, his own people with weapons raised, and the alien warriors with their glowing blades at the ready. Smoke rolled across the battlefield, carrying the scent of fire and blood. At the center of it all was Ryan, armor cracked, skin burned, holding a trembling cub against his chest. No one fired. No one moved. Every soldier, human and alien alike, was waiting. Ryan's commander had lowered his weapon, but his voice still burned with rage. "You've crossed a line, Hale. If you walk further, you're walking alone." Ryan glanced down at the cub. Its glowing eyes met his. It clung to him tighter, its claws scratching weakly at his armor. He looked back up, his voice steady. "Then I'll walk alone." The words dropped like stones into the silence. The alien leader gave a sharp signal with his hand. His warriors parted, forming a narrow path through their lines. Their eyes stayed locked on Ryan, but their weapons remained low. They wanted to see what he would do. Ryan adjusted the cub in his arms and began to walk forward. Slowly, carefully, every step echoed in the silence. Behind him, human soldiers whispered in confusion. In front of him, alien warriors watched with unreadable expressions. He walked into enemy lines. Each step felt heavier than the last. His body screamed with pain, but he ignored it. His burns throbbed. His legs shook. Still, he kept walking. The cub made a soft noise, pressing its face against his chest. Ryan whispered, his voice low, "Almost there. Just hold on." The alien leader followed beside him now, close enough that Ryan could see the faint light of his armor. The leader did not attack. He only walked, silent and watchful, as if escorting him deeper into dangerous ground. At last, the path opened into a wide clearing. Alien soldiers gathered on every side, their weapons in hand, their eyes burning. In the center of the clearing stood a small group of aliens without armor. Older, thinner, their faces marked with grief. The cub stirred. Its glowing eyes widened. It reached one trembling hand toward them, making a soft cry. Ryan's chest tightened. He understood. This was the cub's family. He slowed his steps, lowering himself to one knee in the ash. The cub's claws dug into him, refusing to let go. Ryan tried to set it down gently, but the child clung harder, shaking its head, whimpering. Ryan whispered, calm and soft, "It's all right. You're safe now. They're here." The cub looked up at him, eyes full of fear and confusion. Then, slowly, it loosened its grip. Its small hand slipped from his armor. Ryan placed it gently on the ground. The cub stumbled forward, legs weak, then collapsed into the arms of an alien female. She cried out, holding the child tight against her chest. Others rushed to her side, voices breaking with relief. The cub's whimper turned into a soft, weak sound. Comfort at last. Ryan stayed on one knee, watching. His chest rose and fell in slow, painful breaths. He should have felt relief. He should have felt peace. But all he felt was emptiness. The child was safe. His part was done. And yet, a quiet voice inside him whispered that he had given up everything to make this choice. The alien family looked at him. Their eyes were wide, filled not with hatred but with something else. Confusion, wonder, gratitude. The alien leader stepped forward. He stood tall over Ryan, his shadow stretching across the ash. For a long moment, he said nothing. His warriors waited, tense, ready for a command. Finally, the leader spoke in his own tongue. The words were sharp, heavy, and Ryan could not understand them. But he understood the meaning in the way the leader's eyes never left his. Respect, acknowledgement. The leader turned and addressed his warriors. Their voices rose in unison, not with anger, but with a sound closer to ceremony. The family still held the cub, and the child reached one small hand back toward Ryan, crying out weakly. Ryan felt his throat tighten. He wanted to reach back, but he stayed still. He had no place here. Not among them. Behind him, human soldiers shifted uneasily. His commander barked orders, his voice hard and furious. "Hail! Step back this instant. You've done enough damage." Ryan did not move. He did not look back. He only kept his eyes on the cub, on the family that now held it close. The alien leader raised one hand, and his warriors parted again, this time creating a path leading deeper into their territory. He gestured to Ryan, then to the path. Ryan hesitated. He understood the risk. If he followed, there was no turning back. He would not be welcome among his own people again. The commander's words still echoed in his ears. "You've crossed a line you can't return from." But when Ryan looked at the cub, when he saw its glowing eyes fixed on him with trust even from its family's arms, he knew his answer. He rose slowly to his feet. His legs trembled, but he stood tall. He gave the cub one final nod, a silent promise. Then he stepped forward, following the alien leader into path. Gasps rippled through the human ranks behind him. His commander shouted again, furious. "Hail! Stop! That's an order!" Ryan kept walking. The alien warriors closed the path behind him, their weapons forming a wall. The humans did not fire. They did not chase. They only watched as one of their own disappeared into enemy territory. The clearing fell silent again, but it was a different silence now. Not the silence of fear, the silence of change. Ryan followed the alien leader deeper into the heart of their lines. The cub's cries faded behind him, replaced by the hum of alien voices, the strange glow of their camps, the weight of countless eyes watching him. Every step felt like crossing into a new world, a world where he was not a soldier, not just human, but something else entirely. The alien leader finally stopped and turned to him. His voice was low, steady, and this time he spoke in broken human words. "You carry fire, not weapon, fire of heart." Ryan blinked, surprised. The leader continued, his words slow but certain. "You save young. You are not enemy. Not anymore." Ryan let out a long breath. He had no strength left for words. He only nodded. The leader raised his hand, and the warriors around him lowered their weapons completely. Some bowed their heads. Others touched their chests in a gesture Ryan did not know. The cub's family appeared once more, carrying the child closer. The cub reached out again, weak but insistent. Its glowing eyes found Ryan in the crowd, and it spoke one word. Just one. The aliens froze at the sound, their eyes wide. The leader's gaze locked on Ryan, unreadable but heavy with meaning. Ryan did not know the word, but he knew its weight. The cub had given him a name, and in that moment, on a battlefield where fire still burned and blood still stained the ground, Ryan Hale stopped being just a human soldier. He had become something more, something family. The battlefield was quiet now, not from peace, but from something heavier, something no one understood yet. Ryan Hale stood among the alien warriors. His armor was cracked, his body burned, yet his stance was steady. The cub had been returned to its family, but its glowing eyes kept finding him through the crowd, refusing to let go even at a distance. The alien leader stood tall at Ryan's side. His presence commanded respect. His warriors watched in silence, their weapons lowered but not forgotten. Every eye was fixed on the human who had walked through fire carrying one of their own. Ryan had no weapon. He had no army at his back. Yet the aliens did not strike. They studied him, whispering in their guttural language, words heavy with meaning he could not understand. Then it happened. The cub, still weak, reached its small hand toward him again. Its voice was faint, broken, but it spoke one word, a single sound that carried across the clearing. The aliens froze. Their whispers died instantly. Every head turned toward the cub, then toward Ryan. The leader stiffened, his eyes narrowing. Slowly, he repeated the word aloud, his voice deep, carrying like thunder. The crowd stirred, voices rising in unison, repeating the word again and again. Ryan did not know its meaning, but he could feel the weight of it in the air. The sound of it struck like a hammer, as though history itself had shifted. He knelt, meeting the cub's glowing eyes. "What did you call me?" he whispered, though the child could not answer in words he would understand. The alien leader finally turned to him, speaking in broken human speech. His voice was low, heavy. "The young name you." Ryan frowned. "What name?" The leader's eyes locked on his. He spoke the word again, slower this time, his accent thick, but the meaning clear. "Uncle, death." The words hit Ryan like a blade. His breath caught. He shook his head slightly, confused. "Death? Why?" The leader's gaze did not waver. He gestured toward the battlefield, toward the fire still burning behind them, toward the silence of warriors who had stopped fighting because of him. "You walk with death," the leader said, his voice steady. "Fire should kill you. Weapons should kill you. But death follows you, not takes you. You carry young through death. You become family to death. So young calls you Uncle Death." Ryan's chest tightened. The cub had given him a name. Not a human name, not a title of rank, but something more powerful. A name born from survival, from fire, from sacrifice. The warriors began to chant again, louder this time. Their voices shook the air, a rhythm like war drums. "Uncle Death, Uncle Death." Ryan looked around, stunned. These were his enemies. Soldiers who had killed his friends, who had sworn to wipe out his kind. And now they chanted his name, a name given by a child. The cub reached again, its small hand trembling in the air. Ryan hesitated, then stepped closer. The family holding the cub did not stop him. They lowered the child toward him. The cub pressed his hand against his burned armor, eyes glowing brighter with recognition. The alien leader spoke again, his words clear, final. "You are enemy no more. The young claim you. Family claim you. Death claim you. You are one of us." Ryan swallowed hard. His throat was dry, his body weak, but his voice carried. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly. "Not anymore." The leader nodded once, sharp and certain. His warriors echoed the cub's chant again, their voices rising like thunder across the valley. "Uncle Death." Behind Ryan, human soldiers still waited at the edges of the clearing. His commander stood frozen, unable to understand what he was seeing. To the humans, Ryan had betrayed everything. To the aliens, Ryan had become something more than human. A bridge. A legend. The cub rested in his arms again for a moment, its small body trembling but alive. Ryan held it gently, almost afraid he might break it. The cub looked up at him, glowing eyes filled with something no weapon could destroy. Trust. Ryan's vision blurred, not from smoke this time, but from the weight of what he had become. He was not just Ryan Hale, soldier of the Terran Union, not just a man who defied orders. He was Uncle Death, the human who carried life through fire. The alien warriors began to bow their heads one by one, not to their leader, not their gods. To him. Ryan shook his head, overwhelmed. "I don't deserve this," he whispered. The leader answered without hesitation. "You do not choose name. Name chooses you." The cub's family stepped forward, bowing deeply. The female who had first embraced the child spoke softly in her language. Ryan did not understand her words, but he felt their meaning. Gratitude, reverence. The chanting grew louder, rolling through the alien ranks, reaching even the ears of the human soldiers beyond. "Uncle Death! Uncle Death!" Ryan's commander shouted over the noise, his voice furious. "Hale, do you hear yourself? You're siding with monsters. They'll turn on you the moment you let your guard down." Ryan turned his head slowly, his expression calm, almost cold. "They already had the chance," he said, "and they didn't. The commander faltered, his words caught in his throat. He had no answer. Ryan looked back at the cub, at the family, at the warriors who now saw him as something more than human. He felt the weight of their eyes, the truth in their voices. He had stepped into fire, into death, and come out carrying life. That act alone had changed everything. The alien leader raised his voice, carrying over the chanting. Human is no longer just human. He is Uncle Death. He is family. The warriors roared in agreement, their voices shaking the battlefield. The cub clung to him one last time before being passed back to its family. Even as they carried it away, the child's eyes never left Ryan. Ryan stood still, surrounded by enemies who no longer saw him as one. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with something deeper. Purpose. He knew what the name meant. Uncle Death. It was not about fear. It was not about destruction. It was about the bond between life and death. About carrying someone through the flames when no one else would. And from that day forward, he would carry that name. The war was not over. His people would not forgive him. The path ahead was darker than the fire he walked through. But legends are not born from easy choices. They are born from impossible ones. And Ryan Hale, the soldier who became Uncle Death, had just stepped into legend. The war ended, but not because of treaties, not because of politics, and not because of weapons. It ended because of a story. Years later, in quiet places far from the battlefield, children, both human and alien, whispered the same tale before sleep. They whispered about the soldier who carried a cub through fire, the man who walked unburned when death itself tried to claim him. They whispered about Uncle Death. But before the legend spread, Ryan Hale had to live with the truth. When the fire had faded and the battlefield grew cold, Ryan did not return to his commander. He knew what waited for him there: chains, a trial, and a sentence for treason. Instead, he walked to the aliens, not as their prisoner, but as their guest. Their cities were unlike anything he had seen. Tall spires rose into dark skies, lit with glowing crystals that pulsed like beating hearts. The air hummed with voices, songs, and strange energy. He was not welcomed by all. Many still looked at him with suspicion. But wherever he walked, the chant followed. Uncle Death. It was not said with fear. It was said with respect. The cub he had saved grew stronger each day. Ryan visited often, though the family warned him not to spoil the child. The cub would laugh, glowing eyes bright, reaching for him as if remembering the fire. Ryan could not help but smile. In those moments, he did not feel like a soldier. He felt like something simpler, something purer, a protector. Still, he carried weight on his shoulders. Humans called him traitor. Aliens called him family. And Ryan himself? He was caught between both worlds. One night, the alien leader sat with him by a burning brazier. Shadows danced across their faces. "You have changed more than a battle," the leader said. His voice was heavy, but softer than before. "You change how our young see humans. You change how we see war." Ryan shook his head. "I only carried a child." The leader's eyes burned with firelight. "That is why you matter. In war, carrying a child is greater than carrying a weapon." Ryan said nothing. He looked into the flames and wondered if he believed it himself. The name spread faster than Ryan expected. Warriors who once cursed humans now told their own young about Uncle Death. They spoke of the night he defied his own army. They spoke of how he held death in his arms and walked through fire without fear. The story reached even human ears. Soldiers on distant fronts whispered about him. Some cursed his name. Others told it with awe, secretly proud that a human can inspire fear and reverence in the same breath. But Ryan knew the truth. He was not fearless. He was not unburned. His body carried scars that no legend could hide. Every night, he remembered the fire, the commander's order, the cub's trembling heartbeat. He remembered the moment he chose life over obedience. Years passed. The cub grew taller, stronger, a warrior in training. It never stopped calling him Uncle Death. Ryan smiled each time, though the name still felt heavy, like a chain around his neck. One day, the cub asked him, "Why did you save me?" Ryan hesitated. He thought of all the soldiers he had failed to save, all the lives lost on both sides. He thought of orders shouted in smoke, of bodies left in the dirt. At last, he answered simply, "Because no one else would." The cub stared at him, glowing eyes wide. Then it nodded, as if those words were enough. But legends are never simple. The Terran Union declared Ryan Hale a deserter, a traitor to humankind. His name was erased from records, his service wiped clean, his honors burned. To them, he no longer existed. The aliens, however, carved his name into stone. In their cities, murals rose, paintings of a human carrying a cub through fire. Statues stood in plazas, his scarred face captured in crystal. They did not see him as traitor. They saw him as proof that even in the darkest war, mercy could exist. And slowly, war began to lose its strength. Not because generals commanded it, but because soldiers on both sides began to doubt. If Uncle Death could choose differently, then why couldn't they? The war ended in silence, not with grand treaty, but with battles that simply never came. Armies pulled back, cities rebuilt, and the legend of Uncle Death carried more power than any weapon. Ryan Hale lived long enough to see peace. But peace did not erase the scars. He never returned to Earth. He never again wore the uniform of his people. Instead, he lived among those who had once been enemies, walking their streets, teaching their young about both death and mercy. The cub he saved grew into a warrior, strong and proud. Yet even as an adult, it bowed to him, calling him Uncle Death with the same respect as the first day. Others followed. Soon, every young one called him the same. Ryan would smile, though part of him ached. He never sought a name. He never wanted to be legend. But legends do not ask permission. They are born in fire. In his final days, Ryan sat at the edge of the alien city, watching the stars. The cub, now grown, sat beside him. "Do you regret it?" the young warrior asked. Ryan's voice was weak but steady. "No. If I had let you burn, I would have lost myself." The warrior lowered its head, glowing eyes dim with grief. "Without you, there would be no peace. Without you, I would not live. You are more than legend, Uncle Death. You are family." Ryan smiled faintly. His eyes drifted to the horizon, where fire once raged, now replaced with calm light. "Family," he whispered. "That's all I ever wanted." He closed his eyes. The warrior sat with him until the end. After Ryan's death, the story only grew. To humans, he was a ghost, erased, forgotten, denied. But among aliens, he became something far greater. Songs carried his name. Statues grew higher. Generations repeated the tale of the human, who carried life through fire, the one death itself could not touch. And so, across the stars, his legend lived on. He was not remembered as Captain Ryan Hale, not as a soldier, nor as a traitor. He was remembered as Uncle Death, a man who walked through fire with Cub in his arms, a man who turned enemies into family, a man whose choice ended a war. And though centuries passed, though stars burned and faded, one truth remained. The universe would never forget the soldier who carried life when all else carried death, the soldier who became legend, the man who became family, the name that never died, Uncle Death.